Hello world, this is DJ Craven and you're listening to the Craven Happiness Podcast. Thanks for joining us. This is episode number 8. I appreciate you listening or watching. Without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our guest here. So go ahead and introduce yourself with your name and just a quick little thing of what you do, and we'll go from there.
Sure, DJ. Well, I'm Tim Geibel. Thank you for coming to CATA to take some time to talk with me. I'm glad to be on the podcast.
Absolutely, you got a great building here.
Yeah, thank you. There's been a lot going on in public transportation here for the past 14 years that I've been here, so I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Tim Geibel, born and raised in Western Pennsylvania. Grew up in Butler, and been a Western Pennsylvania guy pretty much my entire life. And
nice.
Found my way to Meadville and been working here for the last 14 years.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, that was one of the first questions that I had because I didn't know, and we literally just met 5 minutes ago. Was where you're originally from? So the Butler area. Now, were you a Butler tornado?
I was a golden tornado.
Oh, golden. Oh, sorry.
Golden
sorry. Got to get the golden in there,
right?
right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in Butler Township. It's about 45 minutes north of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I went to Catholic school for 8 years, and then Butler High, the Golden Tornadoes.
Yep.
After high school, went to Slippery Rock University, did my undergrad, and did a few things in between. Went to graduate school and Geneva College.
Okay.
So yeah, pretty much other than 3 years in state college, my whole life's been in Western PA.
Nice. Well, that's good, and we certainly won't hold it against you because I'm a state college fan myself. So we're not gonna hold that against you. So going back to just where I like to start, a little bit more with the childhood things, and if you've listened to this before, you probably hear it before. I like to get a feel for the guest of who were you on the playground or in the lunchroom or maybe at the party. Who was Tim at one or any of those venues growing up?
Yeah, sure. Well, growing up in Butler, I have an older brother, 2 younger sisters. Mom and dad worked. Mom stayed home with the kids most of the time. And,
yep.
In the summer times, we used to load up the station wagon and shoot 2 hours north of Erie and spend a weekend in a hotel and on the beach.
Oh, nice.
Used to do a lot of camping, so a lot of good memories as a kid growing up. Getting into grade school and high school, got very involved in our youth group. St. Paul's in Butler, and made some really good friends there. And to this date, almost 30 years later, those are the people that I stay in contact with, the people that I met through youth group in Butler. So a lot of good memories growing up in Butler, a lot of good experiences, and on the playground, I would say when I was little, I didn't like it because I was like the fastest kid running. So when everybody was playing tag, nobody wanted to chase me because I could always outrun them.
They could never catch you.
They could never catch me. So that's just when you say what kind of kid was I on the playground, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
You were Speedy Gonzalez. You were fast. Yeah.
I was, but I think I was always from grade school and youth group, high school and beyond. I was always the kind of person that I like to bring people together.
Okay, yeah.
I'm the one that, hey, if we're going to do a party or an event or go on a trip, I'm the one that's going to coordinate it.
Yeah, okay.
So my friends from the youth group, we had this 10-year tradition from the end of high school, or about midway through high school through college, we called it Food Fest, where one weekend in December when everybody was home from school, we'd go up to my buddy's hunting camp in Kane, and we would just spend the weekend just doing nothing but eating food, playing football.
All right, yeah.
But I was the one that was trying to organize everything and get everybody together,
right.
And I'd go out and buy the supplies. So, but yeah, from grade school to high school to even now, whenever I'm the one that kind of brings everybody together.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's there's always that person, right? There's always that guy or that gal in the groups that is somewhat being the person to organize things, and like you said, all of a sudden you're going to go to a fishing trip or a hunting camp or whatever you're going to go. Somebody's going to go out and buy the stuff, right? So that's a very important role. Somebody's got to do it.
It is, and it's kind of interesting when I think about it. Growing up, I always considered myself to be an introvert, total introvert.
Okay.
I always would prefer being with just a small group of people as opposed to going out, in a larger group. So. In your early 20s, everybody's going out on the bars on New Year's Eve.
Right.
I hated that.
Okay.
I'd rather just sit down with a couple of friends.
Right.
Have some real communication.
Yeah.
And just enjoy that. So, But so when I say I was always an introvert, but yet when I look back, it's like I was almost the extrovert because I'm the one trying to organize things.
Right.
I think it's partially because, you know, I love that interaction with people. I love building relationships.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, if my mindset was, if I'm not calling everybody to get everybody together, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So I'm going to take the lead. I'm going to call these guys. Hey, let's go do this weekend, or you know, who's up for a minor league baseball trip, you know, for next summer, and you know, so I'm the one that's always kind of coordinating things. But deep down inside, I always look at myself as an introvert. And when I tell my wife that now, she laughs at me because she's like, "You're the most extroverted person I know." But
yeah.
you know, and I think over the last 18 years in my professional career, I've had to become more extroverted. I have to become the leader of the organization and the one that's out there advocating. But I think deep down inside, I still consider myself an introvert. I think primarily because I just value that one-on-one time with people, or just those small groups of people.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go with that. Even when you first initially said it, because it kind of sounds like you're an introvert, maybe in a larger setting, but in smaller settings you could be extroverted if it's more one-on-one or one-on-three in a smaller setting.
Yeah, to an extent. But even like with my job now, I'm the chairman of our state association for public transportation. We put on a large conference every spring. And last year at our conference, we had some vendors that didn't know anybody, so here I am, I'm going all around at the reception, I'm introducing him, or him, and I think it's still, not necessarily because I want to be an extrovert, but because, again, I value that relationship.
Right.
And I look at my work that I do here at CATA and my advocacy for transit across the state is, I mean, it's a passion for me, so it's something that is very important to me, so when something's important to me, I like, I want to, I'm trying to be as involved as possible. And when we have new people coming in, I want them to feel comfortable into this family of transit that we have. So, yeah, I think ultimately an introvert, but if anybody met me now or the last 10 years, they'd probably say I'm pretty extroverted.
Yeah, they wouldn't put introvert in there. No, that's good. And, a lot of things one of the big words that I use a lot when it is related to happiness is that self-awareness and being able to understand who you are as a person. To really be able to find, happiness, you have to know that, right? You have to know and understand yourself, and knowing that, maybe that's just something that you have a passion about, something that you'd be able to, you can change your way of thinking and the way that you go about a certain situation. So
yeah, and happiness, joy, the things that you pursue in life. Yeah, that's really evolved for me over the last 20-some years, and like I said, I've always been that person that just wants to have that small group and I want everybody to be well, everybody to be healthy, everybody to be happy around me, and I try to go out of my way to do that. And the experiences that I've had over the last 20 years, even from high school to figuring out what I want to do in college to how I want to get my career to where I'm at now, has really kind of changed my worldview of happiness and joy.
Right, absolutely. And that's all part of it as well too, is that the whole change part of that is that you always can change, right? I mean, your decisions and everything that you're thinking of today is not going to necessarily be the same tomorrow or 10 years from now or 20 years from now.
Yeah, I like to think of it not necessarily as much as changing, but more evolving.
Evolving, absolutely. Yeah.
Because as a 20-year-old, just getting into college, not sure what I wanted to do, to here I am in my early 40s now with a family, living in Northwest PA, running a public transportation authority. My mindset, my worldview, my principles have, I would say, continually evolved for the better over the last 20, 25 years.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And change might be not the right word, involved might be a little bit better of a term, but and it's it comes into the different, you have a different perspective based on what your age is and what your world looks like right now. I mean, it's going to be different in another 20 years. When you get to that point in your life, it's just always going to be evolving.
Yeah, I think my perspective has evolved, but yet the core fundamental principles of my perspective remains the same.
Yeah.
Which is, faith, family, relationships.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So if we go back just a little bit of a step to, you know, going through the childhood, you know, through Butler, Slippery Rock. You said you went to Slippery Rock
Yes.
for a little while. I've got some family members. My dad actually went to Slippery Rock for a little while. But what was your so what was your undergrad there at Slippery Rock?
Yeah, well, when I was a senior in high school, I was kind of an average student, you know, C-plus student. This is back in the early '90s in the grunge period, so you know I'm wearing flannels and I'm growing my hair long.
Right.
And I thought, okay, yeah, I'll go to college, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. But I knew something inside of me says, like, I know I don't want to be in the corporate world. I want to be in the community, working for the community, because I think that's where I can have an impact.
Yeah.
I want to have a positive impact on people.
So actively, and hold your thought there, just to interrupt a little bit of, so you actively were thinking about that as an 18-year-old kid, that you wanted to be involved in the community
Yes.
at that time. Okay,
Yes.
that's interesting, because I'm sure not a lot of people were thinking about that, even, especially in the grunge of the 90s,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and I think that goes back to how I was raised, you know,
Yeah.
with a strong family home, growing up Catholic, and a strong base of friends, you know, that I met through church that you know, I still stay in touch with today. So that really helped, you know, set the stage for my world.
Right, absolutely.
But so I knew I wanted to be in the community. I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I didn't know where I wanted to go to school, so I figured, well, Slippery Rock's only 15 minutes up the road,
Yeah.
so I applied for Slippery Rock, and they actually didn't accept me at first. I think I had to answer some additional questions or take another test, because I was an average student.
Right,
My
yeah.
SATs were maybe average, maybe slightly above, maybe slightly below. So I get to Slippery Rock, and I'm undeclared, and I'm thinking to myself, well, you know, what can I know kind of where I want to go, but what am I going to do? And within the first semester, I spoke with a counselor from the Health Services Administration program.
Okay.
And I did a little bit of research, and I'm thinking, okay, well, you know, healthcare, hospitals, there's a hospital in every community, there's, you know, healthcare all over the place. Hey, this might be something.
Right.
So I declared as a Health Service Administration major.
Okay.
And just kind of really thought, okay, I'm moving in this direction where I'm going to get into healthcare, hospital management. Looks like a great career. So, you know, I go through Slippery Rock. I get my degree in Health Service Administration, minor in business, and take a job with a small hospital down in Cranberry Township out of college. And still living at home with my parents. And, you know, after about a year or so, I was just kind of feeling like something just, I don't want to say something wasn't right, but I was like, this just doesn't feel like it's it.
Yeah, it wasn't it.
It wasn't it for me. I left the hospital and I went into home care for a little bit. And then I'm thinking, okay, I've been out of college a year or so, almost 2 years now. I should probably get a master's degree, but I'm thinking, you know what? A 2-year master's program seems like it's going to take forever.
Your early 20s
In
still,
my
right?
early 20s.
Yeah, this is
I'm
gonna
thinking
take
it's going to
forever.
take forever.
10% of my life.
I know. So I'm kind of hem-hawing on graduate school. And then I find this program in organizational leadership at Geneva College.
Yeah.
And it was an adult program, 1 night a week, 22 months, so like every Monday for 22 months. So I didn't really meet the criteria for the acceptance of the program, but I applied anyway. And you know, they accepted me. And I got into that program, and it's you know, Geneva College is a faith-based you know, college. And a lot of really good people, and the way they structured the program was I was in a cohort of about 20 to 25 people. So we all started together, and we took every class together for 22 months. And they just rotated the professors in. And while I was at Geneva, I was a full-time student, but I was only given 1 day a week.
Right.
I ended up leaving my job at the home care agency, so I'm now unemployed.
Right.
Sleeping on a couch in my old bedroom.
Yeah.
Because after I moved out, my parents turned the bedroom into just like a sitting room. So
Yeah.
I didn't even have a bed. I was literally
Nice.
sleeping on a couch for a couple of years. But I was unemployed. I was just you know, doing the early 20 things, going to the bars every couple of nights with some buddies around, and thinking, it's like something tells me, like, I got to get some type of professional experience on my resume. I can't just say, you know, here's a 2 or 3 year gap in my resume, because I had a little bit of professional experience from the healthcare industry.
Right.
And so I find this blank ad in the paper in Butler for a outreach coordinator for a local nonprofit. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't know who it is, but I'll apply. So I sent in my resume. About a week later, there's a voicemail on the phone that John Paul from The Bus called and wanted to interview me. And I think to myself, I was like, The Bus? I don't want to work for The Bus. So I didn't call. And then a week later, I get a letter in the mail. It was from John Paul from The Bus saying, we got your resume, we're interviewing, please call if you'd like to schedule an interview. So I thought to myself, okay, well, this guy's reaching out to me twice now, so I'll just call him. So I go down, I interview, and he gives me the job. It's only 3 days a week. So now I'm going to school Monday nights, and I'm working 3 days a week. And, you know, I worked for him for about 6-7 months, and he came up to me and he said, you know, you're going to graduate here in about 6 months. I can't give you a full-time job. I just don't have the budget for it.
Yeah. But
I know a guy out in State College who's looking for a transportation planner. I think you should contact him and apply for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and you got
to move with the lights, the automatic lights there.
Automatic lights. They should come.
There we go.
We might have to move every couple of minutes.
That's awesome. That's a first for us. That's pretty cool.
This is a LEED certified building, so
right.
we have an intelligent lighting system. So if it doesn't sense motion in the office, it shuts off the lights.
Shuts off the lights. Yeah. So for all you guys just listening and not watching, the lights just shut off. But we'll continue the story.
It was supposed to happen.
It was supposed to happen.
Yeah. So I go out to State College and I interview for the position, and it was a position with the planning agency. So half the work was with the planning agency, half of it was with the transit provider.
Okay.
And I go to the transit system, and it's, you know, State College is a pretty robust transit program. They run about 80, 90 vehicles. It's a real legit program. And I'm coming from Butler, which is a rural system. It's a completely different type of transit system. So, and as soon as I walk through their garage and I see all these natural gas buses sitting there, I was like, man, I want to be here.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be a part of this. So they offered me the job. And I moved out to State College in February, and I didn't graduate Geneva until like June.
Right.
So every Monday I had to drive back. I worked a deal where I left work at noon, drove to my parents' house in Butler, got there at 3, dropped all my stuff off, went down to Cranberry Township for class from 6 to 10 p.m., went back to my parents, slept, and I was back in the office at noon on Tuesday.
On the next day. Nice.
Which it wasn't too bad, but if you've been to State College from here, you know crossing Crescent Mountain in February
right.
is a little dicey.
Yeah, not ideal.
Yeah, not ideal. So, so that worked out, and I worked there for 3 years, and I just really fell in love with public transportation because it was hitting every criteria that I wanted. It was,
right.
I was in the community. I was doing something positive to support the community. And the more I learned about the industry, there was a lot of opportunity for me.
Yeah.
There's transit in every county in our state. There's a lot of really good transit programs across the state. And Pennsylvania funds public transportation very well. So I thought, hey, this could be a great career. And I'm going to these transit conferences, and I'm looking around at all these transit managers. I'm thinking, okay, in about 5 or 10 years, 80% of these people are going to be retired.
Right, yeah, they're going to have to replace this person.
Right,
yeah.
So it's like, there might be some real, upward mobility in this industry. So, I worked for 3 years in State College, full-time, and then I got engaged to a woman up in Erie, and she didn't want to move to State College. I didn't want to move to Erie. So this job came open here in Meadville to run a real small rural system, and ended up applying for it, and I came here. Luckily for me, the relationship didn't work out, and I ended up marrying my wife.
Oh, no kidding! It wasn't your wife.
Who I met about 4 years after I moved here.
Right.
But it's been if I had to look back when I was sitting as an 18-year-old saying, what am I going to do to work in the community? I never would have thought public transportation wasn't even on my radar.
Right.
But it's turned into this 18-plus year career so far, and I'm hoping that it could continue another 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, I mean, really, and it all started with just that one phone call, from that one ad in the paper that you saw.
Yeah.
And then here you sit today, because like you said, I mean, maybe you would have never even really realized that there's a whole career opportunity there.
Yes, absolutely. And I still joke because the gentleman that hired me, John Paul, he still runs the system in Butler.
Oh, no kidding.
And he's become a mentor of mine.
I would imagine,
He's a real good guy. And so we still talk about that. And you know, I've progressed over my transit career in the last 18 years, and he still likes to remind everybody that the whole reason why I'm in transit is because of him.
Of course it is, right? Yeah, of course it is. That's pretty funny. Okay, so that's good. So then you obviously here in Meadville, and then so you've been in Meadville for what is
Since
this? Like
2006. It'll be 14
Okay,
years
yeah.
in April. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
When I first came here, I was working. I was in state college working for a system that had 80 to 100 vehicles. You know, compressed natural gas, 7 million trips a year, 12 employees, 16 vehicles, no facilities.
Right.
I'm thinking, okay, this will probably be 5 years here, and then all these people that I know are going to start retiring.
Right.
I'll just move somewhere else in the state and keep going, keep climbing the ladder. But just absolutely fell in love with Meadville
That's awesome.
and Crawford County. You know, and I've had over the last 10, 12 years, I've had probably 8 or 10 job offers to leave and go run other systems and get to a point where I could be running a big city system here, in 10 years, and something that always kept me here.
Yeah.
It's like, I tell people that in the transit industry, it's a great industry, but if you want to move up, you have to move out. Because
Right.
there's only one system in every region.
Right, makes sense.
So I've got really two options if I want to stay in this industry. I either climb the ladder and keep relocating every year and move my family around, or I build my own ladder here in Meadville.
Right.
And I chose to do that.
Yeah.
So 2006, we had 12 employees, 16 vehicles, no facilities. 2020, we have 70 vehicles, 80 employees.
Oh, wow.
2 facilities. We're constructing another facility in Oil City right now. We're running compressed natural gas. I'm the current chairman of our state transit association. So I've chose to put my roots here, raise my family here, and do whatever I can to further public transportation, not just in Crawford County, but this region.
Yeah.
But I really don't. Even though our authority here in Crawford is we provide services in Crawford and Venango counties, again, just trying to help people. I constantly work with colleagues across the state. Somebody in Mercer has some issues, I'll talk with them. Erie, Indiana, I'm Scranton. I'm constantly communicating with my colleagues. It's a close-knit group, but so I look at my role not just managing and running the systems here, but as the chairman of our state association, I'm supporting every transit agency across the state.
And that is obviously that's awesome. That's unbelievable, and commend you for doing that and be able to give back to the community and do all of those things. And it's one of those things, and not that you set it up that way, but it's someone that we talked about just a little while ago about you being able to help other people.
Right.
And being able to make sure that others are happy and that others are taken care of, and being able to be that chairman role probably somewhat fulfills that a little bit for you, right? Because now you could be that guy to these other.
It's a double-edged sword, because I really enjoy it. You're absolutely right, but our industry right now has some pretty big legislative issues going on. So I've had to make a few too many trips to Harrisburg over the last year, which I don't mind doing. Like, and I tell people, when I'm in Harrisburg and we're providing testimony at a Senate hearing or just taking meetings on the Hill, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I think I've really evolved in my role, and I think I do that very well. But I don't like the 8+ hour drive
right.
to and from.
Yeah.
Because every time I go to Harrisburg now, I lose at least one night with my kids. I can't put them to bed. I can't read stories with them. I lose a morning sitting on the couch drinking milk with my son. So it's a double-edged sword.
Certainly.
Because I believe this is a passion for me. I want to help people. I want to help the other transit systems. But at the same time, I don't want to sacrifice time with my family.
Right. Yeah. And that brings up one of the points that I always think about is that we all have our choices that we have to make, and we have to somewhat live by them, and that we ourselves we have the ability to make those choices, right? And
right.
we have the and as that relates to happiness of when you are the one making those choices and that you're sacrificing that, and it's the quote sacrifice that you maybe don't want to, but you're not judging yourself for making those sacrifices, because listen,
right.
I'm helping other people. These are also choices that I'm making, and
right.
be able to know that you're the ownership of your choices.
Yeah, and it definitely helps having a strong wife, because my wife Erin, she supports me totally, and she watches our kids, whenever I'm out of town, and I certainly wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing, and I certainly wouldn't have the passion that I have if it wasn't, for my marriage with her and the children and the family that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. I can attest to that. There's no doubt about that. We could go to a big rabbit hole about that and pump ourselves up, but yeah, having a strong partner in any relationship, and specifically if one one of the partners has a work takes them traveling and time away from home, and
Right.
Long hours and all of those things, that certainly is a huge piece of it. Staying on the CATA thing, because I'm so intrigued by it, because I rode the CATA bus when I was younger. My mom and I were big CATA bus drivers, so to speak. There was a route that came out. It didn't quite come all the way to our house. No, we were almost all the way to Woodcock, out basically 86. So right where the used to be a Zenith building, and then way back when it actually was a country fair. And that's right where there was a stop right there, and that's where we would get on and off the bus, and we would go down to I believe, and again I was young, but we would go down to my mom's work, and we would run the errands and do all those kind of things, and we would be on the bus. So from a CATA perspective, I'm assuming there's got to be a level of like maintaining what you're doing now, but then there's probably some sort of a growth, so to speak, that goes along with it. So what's that look like, or what's the what are those kind of sections?
To kind of give you a real quick kind of synopsis of how we were in 2006 with 12 employees and 16 vehicles to where we are today with 80 employees. And 2 counties. We having an opportunity to be here and working for a board of directors that understands public transportation was very important. But when I came here, we were contracting out a lot of service. We were working with different providers, and they hired the employees, they maintained the vehicles, and I just came to realize that we would have a much better control, a higher quality of service and maintenance if we brought that stuff in house. So that took a number of years of working with PennDOT, lining up funding for construction, but we were eventually able to get this administration facility here, bring in services in-house, which really boost up our employee totals, open a garage over here to do all of our maintenance. I say over here, I'm talking Rogers Ferry Road.
Right, yeah, I know what you that general direction.
That general direction. So, being able to make investments here in the community has been great, and it's been a professional challenge for me. Like I said, at some point, this was a relatively small system, and I'm going to conferences all over the nation, and I'm seeing people. I'm like, I could be running a system with 150 vehicles and 400 employees. I know I could be doing that.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? This is where I want to be.
Right.
So what can I do to help support public transportation in this region and to grow our services and keep this position, keep me professionally engaged and challenged enough that I don't want to uproot my family and go somewhere else. Like I said earlier, Pennsylvania funds public transportation very well. One of the largest transit authorities in the nation is in Philadelphia, and they provide millions of trips. So whenever there's legislation at the state level to support public transportation, we have historically done very well. And it's because of those investments at the state level that we could put services out that you don't see in other states.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people that move to Meadville and say, well, I lived in Ohio, or I lived in Kentucky, and there was no public service anywhere.
Wow.
When you come to Meadville, we have regular city routes running 6 days a week. We provide door-to-door service 7 days a week. We're running services in Crawford and Venango counties. We do medical runs to Erie, to Pittsburgh. I mean, we have such a robust network of services here that you just don't see in other rural communities, and that's primarily due to the investments that the state has made in public transportation. But looking forward, I do believe as state funding continues to be more competitive, as grants potentially start to condense, there is a push to further regionalize and bring agencies together, and that's really how in 20 years just keeping them by. But in 2015, we started talking with PennDOT about a 5-county study of Crawford, Warren, Clarion, Forest, and Venango. and would it make sense to merge those 5 counties into one authority?
Right.
So we came through about 2 years worth of study and analysis, and the research showed that it would make sense to bring all 5 together and base the administrative services primarily out of Meadville. We were the most robust system in the 5 counties.
Okay.
So Venango County Commissioners took that study and they approached our board, and we negotiated an agreement, and within 2 years they became part of our authority. So that almost doubled our size overnight,
right,
to about 80 employees, and that really transformed my role here at CATA in bringing in some additional staff. Back in 2006, I'd be answering phones, I'd be scheduling trips, I'd be taking manifests down to the drivers, I'd be emptying fare boxes, and I told my board, as we continue to grow, I need to be in a position where 80% of what I do is 6 months to 2 years down the road.
Right.
I can't be in the day-to-day. If you want me to do my job, I need to have people around me that can do the day-to-day so that I can be 6 months to 2 years down the road.
Right, absolutely. Looking forward.
Yeah. And for the most part, over the past 2 years, I've been in that role. But then, life happens. You lose staff. You have issues come up and challenges. Yeah, we're moving forward, and there's some really good things coming down the line. We have a construction project with Venango County, building a multimodal facility in downtown Oil City, which will really help transform our services down there. CATA's involved with the Bessemer Street projects and the potential of all the development on the Bessemer Street corridor.
Right, I've heard about that, yeah.
So I'm actually on a newly formed 501c3 with Economic Progress Alliance to help fundraise and work with those initiatives.
There goes the lights again. There we go. Yeah.
I think it's like every 15 minutes.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's a time check for us.
Yeah. And one of the things that we're doing, you probably saw on the Meadville calendar video we did, we're looking at a public bike share system where we could bring in some bikes that you unlock with your phone and you ride around town. And we look at that initiative as not really a money-making initiative for CATA, but more of a community asset.
Right.
So we've talked with a couple businesses, and there's some businesses that are very interested in supporting us and partnering with us on this initiative. So, we're working with the Progress Alliance to try and tie some funding for a bike share initiative into some of the other multimodal grants that they're pursuing. So, we put out some surveys about 6 months ago, overwhelming level of support for people that want to see a public bike share program here. So, I'm hoping that we can have even a very small kind of a demonstration project out later this year, and then as funding and multimodal projects continue to pursue, get to the point where we have a full bike network here in the community.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's awesome what you're doing here for the community, because as you said earlier, I mean, Meadville has a lot to offer. It really does.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, we've just I've talked about it a lot with some of my colleagues about Meadville specifically, and when being in a local business ownership ourselves, and being able to attract employees, right? I mean, because ultimately, if somebody's going to move there, well, they're going to have a job. They have to make a living and then be able to put a roof over their head.
And you want something to do.
You want something to do, exactly, because typically most of the people that you're around in the area, you're either from here or you've married somebody that's from here, right?
Yep.
So those are one of the 2 boxes that almost always gets checked off, that people that have been here for a significant period of time. So what do we do to attract those other people that don't have those 2 boxes maybe that they're checking?
Right.
The third box is that maybe there is a career here, and then they ultimately set up and put down some roots. So that third one is certainly something that would help. And then we've always talked about that, and that's just another way, the bike program that you're talking about. And I think that's all great. If we would go into Tim a little bit more here, and some specific questions for you. I like to ask some of my guests of what does success look like for you?
Success looks like I look at success as when we can bring people together around common goals and achieve common mutual results that benefit the greater good. That's success.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good answer. That one hasn't been answered that way before, so I like to hear that. And then what about for you from a happiness perspective? And sometimes they can be tied together. But anything else specific with Tim about, you know, from a happiness perspective of what makes Tim happy? I mean, we've talked a little bit about it, but is there anything else more in there that that might be a little bit different than what we talked about already?
Yeah, and that's evolved over the last 20 years.
It's different when you're 21 than when you're now. I get it. Yeah.
But now in 2020, I get great joy just being with my family.
Yeah.
Being with my kids. We have 3 kids. Ethan's 4.5, Adeline's 3, and we have our third will be coming in June.
Oh, congratulations!
So, thank you. So, to me, I get so much joy out of my family.
Yeah.
And just a quick example, the other night I'm putting my son to bed and I'm walking out, closing the door, and he says, "Dad, I really love you a lot." And I was like, you know what? That's joy.
Yeah.
To be able to tuck your son in and give him a kiss and have him say that, I mean, that's joy.
Right.
And that's, so on the home front, on the non-CATA front, that's my source of happiness and joy. At work, where do I get joy and where do I see happiness? When I step back every once in a while, because when we're so involved in the day-to-day, it's hard to see all the change.
Yeah.
But every once in a while I step back and I was like, wow, we've got this facility here, we've got this other facility here, we built a company that can provide wages to 80 men and women to help support their families. I mean, that's really good. That's really good. And then there's times where, I'll be, we have a bus stop right out here, and I'll be looking out the window, and I see people getting on the bus, and I'm like, man, we're helping them. It's like if we weren't here, they would struggle to meet their basic needs. So, a lot of times I just got to kind of step back and look at the big picture of what's going on here at CATA, and that really makes me happy.
Yeah, that is cool because a lot of times what I like to look at it as far as big picture, small picture, micro, macro. You're micro, you're in the hunt of things, you're in the day-to-day grind and all of those things, and to be able to step back and reflect a little bit and look at things from a macro level and really realize, like, in the last 14 years, that you've been here, of just like, all right, where have we, how far have we come? And it's only 14 years, you've got a long way to go as far as being able to come to the end of the road here. I'm sure if everything goes the way you want it, that how much more you can do in the next 14 years and beyond. So that's that's all great to happen. And some of the things that that I think is important too is that not always we have failures on things. We have sometimes where it doesn't necessarily always have to be like this step climb of like everything's been you've been painting so far has been obviously, I'm sure, a great picture from a CATA perspective since 2006 to now, because it is. But I'm sure you've had some step backs along the way. And how does Tim handle some of those step backs, whether it be in any perspective?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we've had those.
Yeah, everybody
does. I think for me, how do I handle it? I try to remember that as the general manager of this authority, people are looking to me for guidance, for direction, for leadership. So even if there's major challenges or problems or things going on, I need to portray a sense of calm, a sense of positive outlook on what's going on. And I don't always do that.
Yeah.
That's
the goal.
That's the goal. But for me personally, what I do, and I struggle with this sometimes because in the transit industry, like I said, there's your colleagues are all over the state, and there's a lot of times where you got an issue going on or a problem. It's like I wish I could just call up somebody, hey, let's go grab a beer and just talk about this.
Right.
So I've over the past couple of years, kind of getting back to my ringleader abilities here. I've been trying to pull together some 30, 40-year-olds here in the community to get together every once in a while, just to not really talk business, but just a bunch of guys just getting together for a drink and
right.
So having somebody that if I got an issue I can just pick up the phone, talk to, or go sit down for 20 minutes and kind of vent. That's important to me, and that's I struggle with that a little bit, but I think that's ideally how I'd like to handle this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's good. Sometimes I like to ask that question because again, the whole idea of me doing this is to bring value to other people, and everybody deals with things a little differently, and sometimes it's good to hear how other people deal with it. You might be able to work that into your the way that you handle things, and being able to maybe take a pause on things and not get too excited too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly, having the leadership role that you have here, you certainly have comes with responsibilities, and like you said,
Right.
all eyes on you on certain situations if there's nobody else to look at behind you type of thing.
I'm looking for somebody,
Yeah, right.
and it's me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I don't know that I have a whole lot of anything else, but I always like to give the floor kind of at the end if there's anything that you want to say or bring up, or anything else that we haven't mentioned that would make sense to add here. The floor is yours if you want it.
Well, we're talking a little bit about direction, and I think it's very important to have principles, and I think it's important to have you have some guidance of where you want to go with your life.
Yeah.
And we talk about how busy we are and what our schedules are. And when I was going through my master's program, we did some readings from Stephen Covey, and one of his principles that really stuck with me was the clock and the compass.
Okay.
And if you notice, I've got a compass hanging up here in my office.
I do see that, yeah.
So the clock, the theory is that the clock represents everything. You open up your phone, you look at the calendar, you've got all these meetings and commitments.
Mm-hmm.
The compass is the direction you want to take your life. So the challenge is to spend more time on the compass and not the clock.
Right.
So
I like that.
And that's specifically why when I sit at my desk and I got all these challenges and I'm not sure what to do and everything's going on, I just look up and there's the compass.
Right.
And that tries to reset me.
Yeah.
So I like to tell people, or I encourage people to try and find what is your compass. Where do you want to take your life?
Yeah.
And not, you have to address the day-to-day issues. You have to have balance in your life. But when you achieve like Covey says, when you achieve a certain level of balance, you get this fire from within to pursue your passion.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed to be able to be in a situation, like I said, with my wife, my family situation, my faith, the job here, that I believe that I've built something that allows me to pursue my passion. And my passion has become public transportation and serving the people of Crawford County, in Venango County. So an opportunity just to take a step back and kind of clear yourself of the day-to-day and look at that overall direction of where you want to go, and use that to really help guide you.
Yeah.
And it's been a challenge to do that, but it's also important to have mentors. I said John Paul from the Butler Transit Authority. He's
Right.
a mentor of mine. Dr. Nick Newpower from Butler County Community College. He was my mentor from Geneva College. He taught down there. I still stay in touch with him. And I have a few other mentors, but it's if you're a young professional starting out in your career, if somebody offers to take you under their wing, take them up on it.
Absolutely.
You absolutely have to take them up on it. And I also tell people that if you're looking to build a career, don't be afraid to apply for a job that maybe you're not qualified for. Because if I would have just looked at the qualifications, I never would have been here in Meadville.
Right.
But once I came here, that really opened the doors for me. So I've tried very much to keep a work-life balance, so that I can continue to have that passion to pursue public transportation here. But it's crucial to have mentors, to have some direction, and to try and take some chances, and don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would add to it just to reiterate that you're still a young professional, even though you're saying you're in your 40s. I don't want to make sure that you don't discount yourself there on a perspective of time there.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you and I are still considered young professionals,
I
right?
agree. Well, to a point, because when I first came here to Meadville, Andy Walker was on my board of directors. He's become a very good friend of mine. He got me involved in the JCs, which became the KCs, the Crawford Area Young Chamber of Commerce. And technically, I've aged out of that.
Right, yeah. So that's why you're up there, yeah.
Yeah.
I just mean from a global perspective, right?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. No, I think that's great with the direction. Is you said it's the clock in the compass, or and the compass?
Clock and the compass.
And the compass.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I think I might use that in the future. I really like that.
Well,
with
you got
the
to
direction.
reference Stephen Covey. It's not a Tim Geibel reference.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't have to steal it from you. I steal
Right.
from him, right? Yeah,
Right.
there's no problem. And then obviously in the mentor thing, I couldn't agree more. I mean, when you're going through your life just in general, it's all about people, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, everything is about people. So being able to treat somebody, regardless of what the situation is, if you're the, you're the boss or you're the subordinate or whatever the case is, it's all about people, and it always will come back around, regardless of how it goes.
Yeah, and if I can, just real quickly, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Point,
the floor is yours. I said it, so you got it.
When I first started, out of college, working in healthcare and early years in transit, my mindset was, okay, I'm hired to do a job. This is a job. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go home. But as I've evolved in my career, I've understood and come to appreciate it's about the relationships.
Absolutely.
It's about building relationships with your board of directors or the people that you work with, building a relationship with the people that are trusting you to lead the organization, building relationships with colleagues across the state, with mentors. So, work is, to me, CATA, CATA is my job, but I don't consider this work. I consider this part of my life.
Right.
And I can do that because the people I interact with, I try to build relationships with. And I think that's just so crucial for people, that are looking to build careers, that are looking for something to give them that satisfaction, that know that they're doing a job well and that they're on the right path, is having the ability to make relationships and come into a work environment where you have professional relationships.
Yeah, absolutely, and that relationship can be built at no matter what level you're at, right? Whether you're, an executive director and you report to a board, or whether you're, just maybe, you're an admin that's answering the phones, or you're the entrepreneur and you're the owner of the company and you're not reporting to anybody other than everybody that works for you, type of thing.
And that's, leadership ties into that, because when I was working on my master's degree, we had to come up with our own definition of leadership. And I always looked at leadership as not an end result, not a title that you achieve, but leadership as a process.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if you're the general manager, or you're a mechanic, or you're a dispatcher, or you're whatever level of your organization, you can be a leader.
Right.
If people around you respect you and they look to you for your opinion, then they are looking at you as a leader.
Yeah.
So, when people ask me, are you a leader? My answer is absolutely not. I'm not a leader. If you want to know if I'm a leader, talk to the people around me.
Right.
If they are bestowing that notion of leadership on me, then I'm a leader. But for me to sit here and say, oh yes, I'm a leader, I'd never say that.
Self-proclaimed leader, right, is what you're saying.
Right.
Is not what you want to be and not what
Correct.
anybody is. And I would agree with that. I would totally agree with that. You have to have, in order to be a leader, you got to have somebody follow you.
Right, right. So, just because you're in charge of a company or a business or an organization doesn't make you a leader.
Right.
You're only a leader if the people around you are bestowing that title on you.
Yeah.
So I'm not executive leader of CATA. I'm the general manager of CATA.
Right. Absolutely. And the other thing that I've always heard that always just stuck with me too is that when you quote unquote graduate into that position and all of a sudden you've got all these people that work for you, it's really the other way around, and I like to look at it the other way around, where now you work for them, right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, because I try to tell my management staff that report directly to me is that I'm here to support you. What can I do to support you? Am I supporting you enough? And that's one of the reasons when we were designing this building. I wanted to have an office that was large enough that I could have a table and chair here.
Right.
Because if a driver or an employee wants to come in and talk to me, I don't want to sit behind the desk with my hands folded.
Right.
I want to be able to sit down, look them in the eye, and have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
I want to build that relationship with them. So, yeah, that's absolutely crucial.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more with everything that we've talked about today. And Tim, I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. I
appreciate this.
you.
This was great on my end, and thanks for saying yes, is what I like to say, for agreeing to doing this, and hopefully we'll be able to get together on some more things.
Yeah, I think you're doing a great thing here with the podcast. I really enjoyed the interviews that you've done so far. I'm looking forward to more, and glad I could be, number 8?
Yeah, so this is episode 8, 7th guest, right? Because the first episode was just me and a camera. So.
Great.
So, all right, well, everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.